The argument, if I understand it here, is we need to ban performance-enhancing drugs in adults to protect our children. So my question to Dick Pound is, don't we have already in society different rules and laws for children and adults? So on your argument, we should ban everyone from driving motor cars because some children may illegally drive them and kill themselves.
Isn't that a silly question?
That's the extent. Why do we accept the rules? Why do we accept the rules
let's say
alcohol to alcohol then?
Should we ban alcohol for adults because kids are going to drink it?
No.
So,
I mean,
so
the issue
difference?
Why not?
The community, the governments, National Olympic Committee, sports federations, the public at large say, here are things that you should not take, and there's a reason for them. They're performance enhancing, they're risky to health, or they're contrary to a defined term, not a pornographic definition, called spirit of sport. And you examine every substance or method against that matrix, and if it meets 2 of the 3 criteria, then chances are it may be on the list. There's a good reason for it. It may be wrong. Maybe somebody's got the science wrong. Maybe they do. Nobody's perfect, and science goes on. But in the meantime, that's the community, and that's the values that are reflected in the community.
Doctor, you said that only 6% of the tests came back positive?
In that first year of universal testing.
Let me just say this. Bob, you've got to back me up. I only have one statement.
Yeah.
It was the single worst drug testing in the history of sports, period. Don't ever refer to that 6%.
If you failed that test, you failed an IQ test simultaneously.
I have a strong opinion.
No one thinks that an announced test that didn't test for a whole array of designer steroids and still showed somehow 6 or 7% failing. No one thinks that's the limit of it. In fact, you could reasonably extrapolate many multiples beyond
it's
that.
It's worse than
and
that.
I think everyone who knows the dynamics of baseball at that time
it's worse than that.
We're going to test next Tuesday. Go ahead and drink all the orange juice you want between now and then.
If you tested positive on that series of tests, you could come back 2 weeks later, and if you were then cleaned out, they took away the first test.
That was a sham. Let us open it. Let us open it now to questions from the audience.
I'd welcome comment from any and all panelists as to the legitimacy, if any, of our Congress imposing its will on this issue and holding these hearings. What is its technical legitimacy in doing that? And philosophically, do you think it's any of their business?
All right, we'll let one
not?
person from each side respond to that. Is it any of Congress's business to be involved as they have been? Radley?
You can probably guess my answer. Just a very, very quick anecdote. When baseball first objected to the Congress's jurisdiction to look into this matter, Congressman Davis and Congressman Waxman sent a letter back to baseball stating that their particular committee, the Government Reform Committee, had jurisdiction over any matter at any time. This is the sort of arrogance of Congress. They think that there's nothing that they don't have authority and jurisdiction over. People are going to say that the baseball antitrust exemption somehow means that they have to sort of bend to the will of Congress. I would submit that if that's your argument, then everybody who gets a government benefit sort of throws all of the rights out the window, from student loan recipients to public housing recipients to corporate subsidies. So I don't think this is an issue of Congress. I think baseball can determine what its rules ought to be on its own.
On the other hand, even though there may have been plenty of grandstanding involved, you can't deny that there was movement after Congress first convened hearings in 2005. It was a perfect storm. There was Canseco's book, Balko was breaking, and the congressional hearings were part of it, but it seemed to move the issue along.
Oh, absolutely it did. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing that individual congressmen can force an entire industry to sort of bend to their will, I happen to find that troubling.
And I have to say, there's something fishy going on when Congress holds hearings and the President takes time in his State of the Union address to talk about the horrors of steroids, which, so far as I know, haven't killed any kids yet this year, or not very many.
Yes.
And smoking, George, which kills 400,000 people every year, 400,000, 90% of whom start smoking in childhood. But this is not worthy of congressional hearings or 30 seconds in the State of the Union.
The nation lacks an effective steroid lobby. unlike the tobacco
There's
lobby.
something going on here other than
We
deep
don't have an
concern.
effective steroid lobby.
There's something going on other than deep concern for the well-being of children.
Congress's involvement. Dale, maybe? What do you think?
Well, I think it's been helpful. I think, though, what we will find is that the Mitchell report, something that was done internally, will be of most help to this problem. I think it'll be a catalyst for us to make some progress. But I got to say, if the argument is smoking or alcohol or prohibition or LASIK surgery, it's not what it says up there. It says, should we allow performance-enhancing drugs? I still don't see the correlation between bringing in the problems with alcohol, which are real. I would love next year to come back and discuss whether baseball should get rid of all their beer sponsors. I would be in favor of that, but that's not the question tonight. It is a relatively small problem. Totally agree with that, but that's just not the question tonight.